This full guide will be a collection of all the information and techniques that helped me get out of the rut and genuinely be able to do more work in 2 hours than I did an entire day. I worked really hard on making this guide useful and understandable for any artist who is willing to put in the work. This also won't just be a video that you'll watch and forget about. It will have actionable steps that are designed to get you the most value out of watching this quite long video. So please follow along if you want to get the most value out of it. I've divided this guide into 3 big chapters and smaller segments within them, as to make it easier for you to follow along. The 3 chapters are planning, working, and resting. You can jump around to whatever interests you the most, but if you relate to my experience, then I recommend you watch the whole thing. In the age of social media, the meaning of productivity has become quite jarred, because we love to compare ourselves to others. But I want you to answer this question. Who is more productive? The artist that tries to draw 12 hours a day and overwhelms themselves? Or the artist that draws 4 hours a day but learns more than the first one? Of course, this question lacks nuance, but it gets the point across. Being productive doesn't mean working the longest or the hardest, but achieving the most results in the shortest amount of time. The reality is that we spend most of our time drawing or studying either distracted or doing things that don't actually matter, not working to our fullest potential. I see these mistakes a lot in myself. When I'm trying to draw, I spend a lot of time just wasted. Scrolling through Pinterest, copying random pictures, getting distracted by Discord or other social media, watching YouTube while drawing, things like that. These things obviously worsen my work and focus. And so I spent the whole day drawing while having nothing to show for it at the end of the day. And so after experiencing this for a while, I started to lose motivation and stopped enjoying drawing. On top of just having a worse life quality in general, thinking that I had to draw more or push harder. But all that ended up happening was wasting more time. And the cycle repeats. On the other hand, if I had worked less while achieving a good result, I would have also had the time to do the things I enjoyed without feeling the constant pressure of having to work, which would have made me happier overall and increased my work quality. With this newfound meaning of productivity, you realize that drawing is not the only productive thing an artist can do. You realize that sleeping is productive, that going out with friends and having genuine fun is productive, because it enables you to do better work, on top of just being good for you in many different ways too. Sometimes doing nothing is literally more productive than working. After practicing and being focused for a 2-hour session, I know that the most productive thing to do for the next 15 minutes is to rest. I could go on and keep studying with what's left with my brain capacity, but doing so would be genuinely a waste of time because I'll learn nothing new, whereas I could spend the time recovering and getting ready for my next work session. Now, I'm not saying that 2 hours is the optimal time to work on your art. These are obviously examples, but what I am saying is that you shouldn't sacrifice your health and well-being for the sake of being productive, when doing so is gonna make your quality of work worse in the long run. Don't make productivity this weird measuring contest of who can draw for more hours a day, because at the end of the day, that's not what matters. It's not what takes you closer to your goals. Time spent working is not equivalent to the results you get out of it, because your brain capacity decreases with time, so the longer you work, the less results you will see. So focus on doing the most important tasks that will give you the best results and concentrate on doing those things to the best of your ability. After that, you can rest and enjoy your life. But how do you know what the most important task is? That's where having a goal comes in. Not having a goal is a massive problem that unfortunately many artists never solve. A goal is the most fundamental aspect of productivity. If productivity is like making progress on a certain road, then a goal is what guides you through that road and gives you direction. Without a goal, you're literally lost. You do things that don't help you grow towards what you care about. If you don't have a specific art goal, You'll just go and do what you feel like. And most likely, you will not feel like doing the hard tasks, which are almost always the most productive. You'll doodle aimlessly and watch random guides on YouTube, and before you know it, 3 hours have passed and you haven't actually done anything. I know this from experience. So for this part of the guide, I want you to at least set a small goal. I personally like to think small when making goals. A good goal for an artist should be at least somewhat specific, like improving anatomy. The more specific, the better, because it gives you a clear direction, which will help you when you want to determine what it is you have to do to get to the goal. A more specific example would be to improve at drawing muscles, and maybe even the muscles of the upper body. Now you have a clear idea already of what you need to practice to get to that goal, right? Learn the muscle groups and how you can draw them. Maybe watch a guide on a specific topic. Very simple. Having a goal for the long term also helps you have an even clearer direction. I personally have a really vague goal of getting to the level of a certain artist that I love. This is not optimal, and certainly if you know you want to be, for example, a concept artist working at Riot Games, then by all means, you should set that goal. But it's not that clear to me yet, and I don't want to rush it. I usually set my goals by comparing my best art to artists I love, and then trying to figure out what the differences are. I want to make a more detailed video on this, but that's for a future one. Feel free to reach out to me if you're interested in it. The actionable step for this part of the guide is for you to go obviously write down your goals now. Writing down your goals has been proven to help you achieve them. Again, if you don't know what it should be, then go compare your best artwork to your favorite artists and identify what it is that you need to improve at to get to their level. Do not skip this part and say that you'll do it later, because you and me know that you won't. Please trust me when I say that if you write down your goals on a piece of paper, it will literally save you so much time. So please go and do it. After you've set your goal, you need to figure out what tasks will get you there. And for that, I want you to answer the following question. If you only had 2 hours a day to work towards your art goals, what would you do? And if you had 2 hours a week, what would you do? This question forces you to think about what's the most important task to achieving your goal, and makes you realize that most of the time you spend quote-unquote drawing is on the unimportant tasks. For me, for example, I had a habit of always sketching and copying stuff I saw on Pinterest aimlessly, just for fun and for a really long time. And sure, this kind of exercise does have some kind of benefit to it, but it's nowhere near as beneficial as deliberately practicing anatomy and the muscle structures, or doing color studies to train your eyes to see the right colors. And by no means am I saying to cut out sketching or copying random stuff or other stuff that I enjoy. If you enjoy it like I do, then keep doing it. Just make sure it's less of a priority and potentially schedule it to be later in the day when your brain can't focus on work anymore. I will talk about this more in detail in a later chapter. So for example, if your goal was to improve at color and the use of light in your illustrations, then I would first look up what professionals do or did to improve at that skill and just do what they recommend, and see how you feel about it. A wonderful resource for this specific goal is Light Ponderings. You should go check him out. So again, for this actionable step, ask yourself what you would do if you only had 2 hours a week to draw, and write down these things. You should prioritize these tasks and potentially cut out less important habits. Figuring this out will help you get the most out of the time you spend while drawing, and it is essential for productivity. So please do it. Now that you have a goal and a clear vision of what exercises or studies will take you to that goal, now is the time to make a schedule and a daily to-do list. This is helpful because it gives you no room for guessing what you're going to do. When you guess what you want to do, you've already lost, because your mind will convince you to do the unimportant tasks or to waste time and procrastinate. Whenever I give my mind the freedom to decide spontaneously, it gravitates towards the easiest tasks. while also being distracted by YouTube or other things. This is the exact opposite of what you want to do, and that is to-do lists or schedules, because they are the best way to avoid wasting time. You should let your future self know exactly what it is they have to do to get to where they want to be. Having a clear goal and tasks that will take you there is literally the biggest return on investment, so don't sleep on it just because it sounds extreme. I personally recommend you to go as far as to make a clear schedule that you could genuinely follow for the rest of your life. This schedule will have placeholders, like let's say for example art study from 10 to 12 pm, and your task list will determine what you do within that time block, and you can update it whenever you feel like you should. So for example, after you start feeling confident in the upper body muscles, you can move on to lower body, and then the face and so on. Of course, you can change the schedule when you feel the need to, but you should aim to make it incredibly consistent. If you don't wanna go that far, then at the very least, try to plan what you'll do the next day on the day before. You should also aim to do all the things you planned every day. But don't be discouraged if you weren't able to. We usually overestimate how much we can do in a day, and I can't tell you how rare it is for me to exactly do what I planned to do. But nonetheless, you should always try to do all the work. For this actionable step, try scheduling out the next week based on your goals and tasks from previous chapters. This will leave you no room for your future self to procrastinate and waste so much valuable time. Deep work is a term that describes when you get into a flow state while doing whatever it is you want to do. You forget about all the distractions and irrelevant thoughts that are all meaningless for the current task. This state is where you will produce the best work, or learn the most from a study, or work the fastest you ever have. It can literally enable you to do a day's work in 90 minutes. A deep work state is optimal for pushing yourself to the limit and learning new things, and this is where you will see the most growth. Studies show, however, that the average person can only do 2 hours of fully focused work, and that the most likely upper limit is 4 hours a day. This also supports my argument that working all day can be a waste of time if you don't plan according to your mind's needs. With this information in mind, I recommend you do the work that requires the most brain power at the start of the day, and gradually move on to less challenging things as the day goes on. This also means that you shouldn't waste your focus on useless things since it's limited. Don't use it on YouTube or for scrolling on TikTok. It will hinder your ability to draw. Choose wisely what you want your attention to go on. Now on to how you can go into a deep work state. A state of flow is hard to get into. You will experience a lot of resistance at the start and then be tempted to distract yourself throughout. But there are ways to minimize that, which I will talk about in the next chapter. When working, your mind will always try to get you to do something more pleasurable, and it has many options it can use to deceive you into doing that. Most notably, your phone. The phone is an incredible tool, but for most people, they don't use their phone, it uses them, and you need to do something about it. So, what can you do? One thing you should do to avoid your phone during the deep work session is to put your phone out of sight, and that will be enough for most people to forget about it for that time. Another tip I have for the phone in general that I know may sound extreme, but you must do, is to have your notifications disabled on all apps, especially if you have an iPhone and your phone lightens up automatically when you get a notification. Remember what I said about that phone being a tool? Well, you should be able to decide when you use it, but notifications pull you towards it, so you have to disable them to regain control. This also helps you make a conscious decision about when to use it instead of unconsciously just opening it out of habit. Trust me, I've done this and the phone significantly became less of a distraction in my life in general. Remember how I said that you should never be guessing anything about your work? Well, this also applies to time. I know it may sound minor, but having a timer really helps you get into a flow state. It gives you a clear time period in which you will be working and away from any distractions, and your focus is 100% on the work you have. Drawing without a timer compared to drawing without a timer, to me, is a massive difference. I don't really understand why it's like that, but it's like a magic trick of accountability. When I set the intention and a timer to draw for 2 hours, I am way more likely to stick through that session and achieve what I want to do in the start. You should have the timer be on your computer if you're a digital artist, and if you must have it on your phone, then make sure to put your phone away after you set a timer. Timers are literally a cheat code, so don't sleep on them. This is a personal thing, but music also helps me get into a flow state. It gets me into a clear headspace and makes me way more focused. Also, it helps me avoid auditory distractions like my family speaking outside my room or stuff like that. Make sure the music fits the work environment though, or the mood of the drawing you're working on. I absolutely adore this singer called Ichiko Aoba. If you know her, just know you're a real one. But her music just makes me want to go to sleep instead of working, so I stopped listening to her while working. It may be good for a certain mood, but not when I'm studying. Again, music is very personal and you should experiment with having it or not, and what types of music make you more concentrated. Please, I beg you, don't be someone who sacrifices sleep for the sake of working or studying or anything. By now, we have established that the meaning of productivity is to do the optimal work for a shortest possible period of time. If you're working or drawing while being sleepy, you're ruining your health, you'll be sleep deprived the next day, your work the next day will be worse, and the work you're currently producing is of low quality. So it's a massive waste of time. I literally can't think of a reason for you to justifiably not go to sleep enough outside of emergencies. The meaning of enough is different for everyone, and I'm not a sleep expert, but I can assure you that working late into the day is close to being a time waste in a bigger picture. So please stop that. Sleep is so important, so sleep enough. Another thing I personally like to do is to nap after a focused drawing session. I don't know, I just feel very sleepy after doing focus work for a long time, especially towards the middle of the day. But taking a very short nap of 10 to 20 minutes or just laying down in bed helps me cover and I feel ready for the next session of focus work. To be able to produce the best work you can, you need to have a good mental and physical health. And that's near impossible if all you do is draw and work all day, like we discussed before. So I advise you to get into other good habits that require less focus and where you can shut off your brain. For physical health, I highly recommend you sign up for some sort of sports club or gym. Physical exercise has been proven to help with mental health. It makes you happy, and I can guarantee that. I personally have been weightlifting for a little over a year now, and the level of improvement I see in my overall quality of life is crazy. Now, to be fair, going to the gym wasn't the only thing I changed about my life at that time, but I definitely recommend it to anybody. The feeling of doing something for your health and seeing progress over time, shaping your body into its best state, it genuinely feels awesome. On top of actually having many physical health benefits that are very important to avoid injuries, if all you do all day is sit and work, which is the case for most artists, including myself. I used to have really bad back pain when I draw for a longer period of time, and since starting the gym, it's like it disappeared. So yeah, if you couldn't tell, going to the gym is a personal favorite recommendation of mine. But even if the gym isn't your thing, there's literally no excuse for you not to be physically active. If you like basketball, go play basketball, and if you like football, go play football. Just do something. One more thing I personally like to do while resting is doing mindless sketches. It doesn't feel exhausting, but it keeps me in the flow of art, and it's incredibly fun. I just pull up Pinterest and look up some random pictures and draw them on my sketchbook, though I recommend it to be on paper. Something about drawing on paper and taking your eyes off your screen is so calming, and it really gets you in the right mood. Other habits that keep your mind clear while giving it a chance to rest are things like going out on a walk, reading, meditating, or sleeping. I can't really go in depth here on why this is, but you have to trust me on this one. Doing these habits in a resting state is a million times better than watching random YouTube videos, going on Instagram, or playing video games, which, contrary to popular belief, is actually very stimulating for the brain and is the opposite of resting. Now, I know that you'll hear people say that you should quit these things altogether, since they're a waste of time, and I do agree to some extent. I've quit playing video games since I've taken art seriously, but I still enjoy playing them with friends from time to time. The most important question to ask yourself here is whether you actually feel enjoyment doing these things, or if it's just something that distracts you from other problems and for the stimulation it gives you. For me, playing video games alone is definitely a form of escapism. I used to think I enjoyed it, but really it was only the dopamine. The actual experience was frustrating most of the time. But playing with friends was different, so I still do that from time to time. But only when I consciously end the workday. When I think that I will not be able to do any meaningful work, I allow myself to go and do these things. But not for too long and not too consistently, especially since video games have effects on the brain on top of being a waste of time. So keep it to the minimum. Drawing and studying art can be very fun, but it can also get very boring and repetitive sometimes. Now, of course, some amount of discipline is needed here, but I think that you can't always be just doing the hard stuff. Like I mentioned before, I like to just mindlessly copy stuff on my sketchbook. It has some kind of benefit, but compared to doing focus and deliberate studies, it's kind of a waste of time. But the simple fact that I enjoy it is enough for me to do it. Kinda. I just find ways to incorporate it into my productive stuff. For example, I do it as a warm-up before getting into studying or working on an illustration. Or when I'm resting, like I described before. Whatever it is you enjoy, make sure to keep it consistent in your day. These things that you enjoy will help you get through the things that are harder and sometimes less enjoyable. We've covered a ton of stuff in this video, and I know it can be overwhelming, but you need to trust the process. Give yourself some room to fail and just accept it. Accept that you will fail many times like any normal human being, and don't beat yourself up for it. As long as you keep going, even if you just have the thought of improving, that's good. I'm by no means perfect at all the things I talked about in the video. I'm not even halfway there. You're probably even better than me. I still slack off. I wasted a whole day playing Overwatch last week. I almost never do the things I planned for a day. And at the end of many days, I feel like I've accomplished nothing and look at other artists of my age and just feel down. And yet, somehow motivated. Seeing what's possible is always a big motivation for me. I know the road is hard, but you need to keep moving forward. You chose this path for yourself. Being an artist is one of the hardest things I've ever experienced. You can always choose to stop and go do something easier, but we artists know that that's not what we want. So keep struggling. I'm sure it will be worth in the end. Meditation has always helped me stay positive in these kinds of situations. So if you want to know how I always have a positive mindset, consider watching this video. With that being said, I thank you for staying until here. I sincerely hope that you'll learn from this video, and I wish you a peaceful rest of the day. Take care.